reading from the book of the prophet Isaiah. Thus says the Lord, who opens a way in the sea and a path in the mighty waters, who leads out chariots and horsemen, a powerful army, till they lie prostrate together, never to rise, snuffed out and quenched like a wick. Remember not the events of the past. The things of long ago consider not. See, I am doing something new. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? In the desert I make a way, in the wasteland rivers. Wild beasts honor me, jackals and ostriches. For I put water in the desert and rivers in the wasteland for my chosen people to drink, the people whom I formed for myself, that they might announce my praise. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
consider everything as a loss because of the supreme good of knowing Christ Jesus, my Lord. For his sake, I have accepted the loss of all things, and I consider them so much rubbish, that I may gain Christ and be found in him, not having any righteousness of my own, based on the law, but that which comes through faith in Christ, the righteousness from God, depending on faith to know him and the power of his resurrection, and the sharing of his sufferings by being conformed to his death, if somehow I may attain the resurrection from the dead. It is not that I have already taken hold of it, or have already attained perfect maturity, but I continue my pursuit in hope that I may possess it, since I have indeed been taken possession of by Christ Jesus. Brothers and sisters, I, for my part, do not consider myself to have taken possession. Just one thing. Forgetting what lies behind, but straining forward to what lies ahead, I continue my pursuit toward the goal, the prize of God's upward calling in Christ Jesus. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Proclaim the gospel, our hearts and souls will be converted back to the ways that God has created us.
Amen. To you, Lord Jesus. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ, King of endless glory. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ, King of endless glory. The Lord be with you. And with your spirit. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. Jesus went to the Mount of Olives. But early in the morning, he arrived again in the temple area, and all the people started coming to him. And he sat down and taught them. Then the scribes and the Pharisees brought a woman who had been caught in adultery and made her stand in the middle. They said to him, "Teacher, this woman was caught in the very act of committing adultery. Now, in the law, Moses commanded us to stone such women. So what do you say?" They said this to test him, so that they could have some charge to bring against him. Jesus bent down and began to write on the ground with his finger. But when they continued asking him, he straightened up and said to them, "Let the one among you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her." Again, he bent down and wrote on the ground. And in response, they went away one by one, beginning with the elders. So he was left alone with the woman before him. Then Jesus straightened up and said to her, "Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?" She replied, "No one, sir." Then Jesus said, "Neither do I condemn you. Go, and from now on, do not sin anymore." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Last week, we heard the story of the prodigal son. It was a story which mainly the main character is the father, the loving father, the caring father, the forgiving father, the father who's always willing to have a feast at the return of their son and daughters, commonly known as the prodigal son. This week we also hear another story, commonly known as the women adulterer. How I wish that both stories had a different title, a more positive title. Last week's should have been titled The Loving Father, the Caring Father. This week's should be titled Jesus, the Great Defender, Jesus, our Advocate, Jesus, the best lawyer, Jesus, the great negotiator. Instead, we focus on the negative aspect of the story when we title it. Today, I want us all to take a different approach. And let's start focusing on the positive, on the beauty. What is the story pointing us to? It's not pointing us towards the negative. It's pointing us towards something bigger, something greater, something positive. That's where I want us to go today. Let's set the story in context. Jesus has already began his ministry. He's already teaching in the temple area. We heard in the story, people are starting to follow him and sit with him. Can you just drop it just one little bit, please? I'm sorry. Jesus is beginning to teach, to gain followers, and in some way, it's becoming a pebble in the shoe of the leaders, of the Pharisees and the scribes. So they're looking for a bit of an excuse to catch him. To catch him, arrest him, make a case against him, and get him out of the way. So today's story, they bring a woman who's been caught in adultery. For those of you with children, I'll leave it up to you to explain what that is at home. The scribes and the Pharisees were not in any way intended to uphold the law of Moses. If they had been, they would have stoned the woman the minute they caught her along with the men. They did not have to come get Jesus' opinion on what to do. If anything, they did need permission from Pontius Pilate, who was the president of the Roman Empire at the moment, who did have a say on who died and who lived in that area. So it was all a trap, and we heard it here. It was all a trap. The woman was basically a pawn in their game, a victim in their hate for Jesus and for the truth. That's the story. Let's begin to see where and how we can apply it to our lives. What can we learn from Jesus' attitude, from Jesus' response, and from the woman, the innocent bystander, in the bigger picture? Who can tell me, who can recall what Jesus did the minute they came to him and asked him what his opinion was? Let's think about the scene. A crowd of people with stones in their hands, ready to kill somebody. Surround Jesus, surround his followers, surround the woman caught in adultery. What did Jesus do? Anybody? He wrote in the sand. So I'm going to mimic what that would look like. Look at my posture. Is this a posture of authority? It's not. Is it a defensive posture? Not really. Is it a posture of I'm about to attack somebody? It's not. It's a posture of humility. It's a posture of humbleness. And it's a posture we use for prayer as well. When the world comes at us, ready to devour us, when the whole world is, all the walls are crushing on us, when we're at a point of desperation, we see no way out. That should be the posture that we take. We all have been there. We all have seen the walls coming in on us. We all have seen the world against us. We feel sometimes that the whole universe is out to get us. If we think about this posture of Jesus and take that posture of Jesus, things will change. The situation will be diffused. We would have a better understanding of the bigger picture, and we will be able to react accordingly, and not just react with anger, with fear, escaping the situation. So let us recall that next time we're in that situation. The posture of Jesus in this very scene. The woman, can you imagine what she was feeling? The fear. She didn't know about the rules. She just saw a lot of people coming at her with stones. And they were meant for her. She must have been scared. She must have been crying. God knows what thoughts were going through her poor mind. What was her only escape? What was her only hope? Jesus. Jesus was the only one who could save her out of that situation. Jesus was the only one who could take her out and make things new for her. And so it does for us. He's there. He's always there, ready to help us, ready to defend us, ready to guide us, ready to show us the next step, ready to defend off our adversaries, our enemies, be it people, be it situations, be it health issues. Whatever it is, He's there. And we have to pretty much do what the women did. Have that trust and that faith that He will pull us out of it. And just like He did with the woman, He will do it with each and every situation that we may encounter in our lives. So those are two things for us to keep in mind as we continue with our lives, for the young people as they start beginning a career. And your little problems may seem like the end of the world. For the older generation, your problems may seem like the end of the world. It's never the end of the world. It was not the end of the world for the women of the story. As long as Jesus is there, it's not the end of the world. Now there's another takeaway that I want us to take with today. Stone throwing. Thank God we don't do that anymore. In this day and age, we don't stone people to death. However, if we really consider it, we do stone people. Oh, we love to stone people. It's a hobby, it's a pastime, stoning people. We gossip, we criticize, we're quick to judge. We're quick to judge situations, we're quick to judge people, we're quick to judge our church, we're quick to judge our clergy. That's stoning. And that is not Christian, my friends. That is not what we're learning from Jesus. That is not why we come to Mass. It's kind of pointless to come to Mass and at brunch we're bashing somebody. It's kind of pointless to come to Mass and then hop online and criticize our church. It's not Christian to come to Mass and then go to school and criticize someone in the classroom because they look different than us, because they speak different than us, or because they come from a different background than we do. And as in the story, normally the stone throwers are not alone. Normally they're with a crowd, and so are we. Usually we don't throw the stones on our own. Usually we're with someone when we're about to throw stones. So as Christians, let us remember today's message from Jesus. Let that one without sin throw the first stone. And as knowing that we are sinners, we ought to remind our friends when we're about to engage in that gossip, which is very easy. You guys know it is very easy to engage in gossip. The moment we see that about to begin, let us recall today's story and change the topic. Change it abruptly. Talk about football. Talk about baseball. Talk about the Orlando Magic. But cut it off at the root. Let no one throw the first stone. Because once that first stone is thrown, everything breaks loose. It's good to point out that Jesus in no way approved of the sin of the woman. In no way did he let it slide either. Neither are we supposed to approve others' sin or let it slide. We are called to do exactly what our Lord did in the story. I'm going to give you his words exactly, what he said to the woman. If I can find them. Neither do I condemn you. Go, and from now on, do not sin anymore. That is what we are to do. A fraternal reminder that as long as we're alive, as long as we're breathing, we can go to him, ask for forgiveness. We are not condemned as long as we're alive. We just ought to stop sinning and moving on. That's what we're called to do. I want to read you the introduction of an apostolic letter that our Pope just put out. It's called Post-Synodal Apostolic Exhortation. 4 fancy words. You can Google it. Just Google Pope Francis, Christ is alive. If you Google that, you will find the whole letter. I encourage you to read it. Hopefully by me reading you the greeting, it'll encourage you to go home, read it, discuss it with your family. If you don't have time to read the whole thing, which is about 20 minutes, read a summary, watch somebody's take on it, a review, and discuss it, and see where our church is going. See what our church has in mind moving on from here. It goes like this. Christus Vivit, that's the name in Latin for the exhortation. From the Holy Father Francis to young people and to the entire people of God. Christ is alive. He is our hope. And in a wonderful way, he brings youth to our world. And everything he touches becomes young, new, full of life. The very first words, then, that I would like to say to every young Christian are these. Christ is alive, and he wants you to be alive. He is in you. He is with you, and he never abandons you. However far you may wander, he is always there, the risen one. He calls you and he waits for you to return to him and start over again. When you feel you are growing old out of sorrow, resentment, or fear, doubt, or failure, he will always be there to restore your strength and your hope. End of quote. I hope you read it. I hope you look it up. I hope you take it to heart. We'd like to wrap this up with this. No matter where we have been or where we are today, the one who could judge us, let himself be judged. Let himself be hung on a tree for us. He's always there. He's always there in the scriptures. He's always there in that caring friend, in that caring brother. He's mostly and certainly always there in our Eucharist. Let's together listen to his words. Go, and from now on, do not sin anymore.